You wake up in the morning, or for me, more likely in the middle of the night, with that sinking feeling of shame washing over you. And you're thinking, oh no, I've done it again. I'm such an idiot. Well, if that's ever happened to you, I know exactly how that feels. So this week I'm sharing my second most shameful alcohol fueled mistake and how I was able to go from being a massive booze hound winemaker to actually feeling in control and having self trust around my drinking without missing out on any of the fun parts. Hi, so welcome to Joyful Eating, episode number 235. And in this episode, I'm sharing my second most shameful alcohol fueled mistake. But before we get to that, the best bite I had was actually last night. Fergal, my now 12-year-old, can't believe it. So the boys, we're one night a week each, they're in charge of making dinner. And so Fergal had chosen tacos. And so he made pork tacos. So he cooked the pork meats. We've got our little proprietary taco seasoning mix, so we put some of that in. I warmed up tortillas and grated some carrot, and the boys had theirs pork and carrot wrapped in tortillas. I had mine with some coriander, like cilantro, chopped up, and the carrot on a in a bowl with the pork on top and some sour cream and jalapenos, like pickled jalapenos from my garden, which seriously, homegrown jalapenos, the business. And it was so good. And I was so proud. And it's like, I love using child labor. And yeah, just so if you're interested in that, there is going to be a Joyful Cooking for Kids where we share how I've been teaching my boys to make healthy meals without recipes. Some of them not so healthy, but anyway, yeah, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, plan for today, back to alcohol, Jules. So first of all, I'll share the story behind this episode, and then I'm going to share my second most shameful alcohol-fueled mistake, and then I'll share with you exactly how I did go about healing my relationship with alcohol and where I've got to now, and then we'll wrap up with the bonus tip for you as well. So the story behind this is I actually caught up. I hadn't seen seen her in ages, but one of my really old friends, it's in Sydney, so we caught up for dinner, and she is a fellow booze hound. So we used to booze together a lot, and we went out for dinner. We went to this really cool new restaurant in Surrey Hills, actually, and which was great in Sydney. Having dinner, and I just had one glass of wine. That's all I wanted. Moved on to sparkling water. Thoroughly enjoyed the evening. Thoroughly enjoyed what I drank, and my friend was like, she was on her third glass, and then we ended up going to a cafe afterwards, and I had a pot of tea, and she had another glass of wine, right? Anyway, so we were talking about, she was like, Jules, I need to do something about my drinking. I was like, right, excellent. You've come to the right place. And so that got me thinking about how far I've come, and actually seeing her was, because there wasn't at any point during that evening where I was, oh, I want another glass. I'm fighting with myself. It was just, no, I'd had what I wanted. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my tea, everything. It was so, yeah, it just felt so good. And so just part of who I am now, right? So I'm different. And also, I didn't feel like I'd missed out on any of the connection that I would have normally had getting hammered. If we were getting hammered together, we were still able to have a really great conversation, really catch up heart to heart without me getting hammered. So that's why I wanted to record this episode. So, what is my second most shameful mistake? So, I'm not going to tell you my most shameful. I only share that with people who join me in the secret society of intentional booze hounds. But my second most shameful mistake that was alcohol fueled, and I tell you what, there's a big pile of these. So, ranking them, there are many others I could tell you about, but this happened back in my winemaking days when I was working in the Barossa Valley, and it was vintage time, so which is really busy, and I was just working all the time. Anyway, the winemaker, my boss, he was like, "Let's go out for dinner. You guys have been working really hard." So we went to the time there was one fancy restaurant in the Barossa. So he took us out to this fancy restaurant. And I, of course, drove there, not thinking about it at all. And then my boss is ordering these amazing French wines. This place had an amazing wine list, world class. We had a beautiful meal. I hadn't been drinking that much because I'd been working so much. And so I just got really hammered. And then we went to the pub, and I just drove, and then I drove home. And of course, I didn't make it all the way home. So because I was hammered and I should have known better, I rolled the ute and completely wrote it off. Luckily, no one else was hurt, luckily, apart from a fence, and I was not hurt, but the vehicle did not live to tell the tale. And I was just, what am I doing in my life? So that is probably one of the worst things. So I ended up losing my job because I driven the work ute home. I ended up having to pay the insurance company for the ute. And it was not my finest moment, right? So how did I go from like being so out of control with alcohol to that I just had no filter around it to actually getting to this place where I just mentioned I'm able to go out with my old booze hound friends, have a really great night, enjoy it thoroughly, drink what I want, and stop at just one. So how I healed was actually decide first the first thing came I actually decided that I was going to change. I knew that I wanted to still include alcohol in my life, and I knew because like yeah you could stop drinking altogether, but that's I love it. There's no fun in that. So I knew there must be a way. So I decided I was going to find a way. I was going to figure this out for myself, and I wanted to figure it out for myself. But more importantly, oh, no, not more importantly, just as importantly, I think another factor was I wanted to figure it out for my children because they have two booze hound parents. And so I wanted to find a way where they didn't have to completely stop drinking, where they could include alcohol in their lives and it not be this shameful, awful, bad thing, right? So I wanted to help them. So I had this huge motivation. And the thing that I started doing was I listened to a podcast by a lady called Brooke Castillo from the Life Coach School. And she was like, she'd changed her relationship with alcohol by just doing this one thing of planning in advance. So setting intentions before you start drinking, deciding how much you're going to drink. And just by making that one change with lots of trial and error over a period of about 3 years, and also learning to coach myself so that when I did have the urge to drink more, I was able to rein myself back in sometimes. Building that skill, doing those two things over about 3 years helped me get to this place where I am now. And yeah, like it's so wild to me still that I've changed that. But that was it. It was that simple of just making the decision and then just being really committed to setting intentions and then coaching myself when I didn't stick to my intentions and learning from that rather than using it as a reason to beat myself up. So, just wherever you're at now with your relationship with alcohol, I want you to know that if you know you can stop, right? So if you know, say it's it's July now. So say someone about to be July, someone suggests for some reason you wanted to do dry July, you could do that. If you know you have the ability to stop, but you also don't want that to be your life, like you want to still have alcohol, you want to be able to have a glass of champagne, you want to be able to enjoy a good whiskey by the fire, whatever you love to drink, then if you know that's where you want to be, I just want you to know that it is possible for you to do that, to get to this place. And it's actually not as hard as you think. So, my bonus tip for you to get you started on this path is to start small and and of course, being willing to fail. There were so many failures on my journey, but I encourage you to just start experimenting with next time you're drinking, just decide before you start drinking, before you open that bottle, how many am I having? And be generous with your intention. You don't want to go, if you normally have a whole bottle, you don't want to go, I'm just going to have one glass. No, set that intention to have the whole bottle and give yourself permission to have the whole bottle from this place of, yeah, you can change the quantities over time, but building that habit of setting intentions first is the first step. You want to get that habit happening. And my bonus tip for you is to just start small with that and be willing to fail and just see how it goes. And if you'd like some support, so it took me 3 years to do that, but I've worked with people who they're able to radically change their relationship with alcohol in around 6 months, even less for some people. If you want to become one of those mythical unicorns who can take it or leave it around alcohol without giving up all the fun parts, then I'd love you to join me in my new coaching group program called the Secret Society of Intentional Booze Hounds. So it's a secret society. It's really good fun and it's amazing what we can accomplish together. So that sounds good. Click on the link in the show notes to learn more. And I'd love to work with you. Okay. Have a beautiful week and I'll catch you next week.